The going through the empty motions, autopilot mode, defense. Avoidance by sleepwalking. Learning how to spot this defense has revolutionized my clinical work and exponentially improved it. This is a descriptive umbrella category or heading defense mechanism that subsumes a host of other defenses. It is very common and extremely useful to develop an eye for. The defenses subsumed by or constituting the going through the motions defense include emotional disengagement, non-involvement, and detachment while acting the part of an engaged and involved psychotherapy client. With this defense, there is an absence of a full presence. Presence here meaning the patient's full attention and effort, cognitive, emotional, volitional, being brought to bear on the therapeutic task and collaboration. Replaced instead by autopilot mode. The patient is here, but not here, akin to sleepwalking. When considering what this defense of going through the empty motions does to a person's vitality and well-being, it could be said to be, well, monstrous indeed. A performative component, acting the part of the good patient, or keeping up appearances, is invariably part of the picture. It's therefore also safe to say that the passive compliance and defiance dynamic comprise a cornerstone of the going through the motions defense. Typically here, the defiance is unconscious rather than conscious. The patient going through the empty motions is also invariably ambivalent and non-committal about fully addressing and trying to resolve their neurotic suffering. As with all defenses, it's founded on an act of deception or dishonesty, conscious or unconscious. Some patients are incredibly skilled at appearing engaged and involved, when in actuality they're going through the empty motions of being a psychotherapy client. Once you've learned how to recognize this defense, however, it becomes easier to spot, even in those with great acting skills. The defense itself is often egocentric in the patient. The patient is not aware that they're employing this strategy to avoid facing real contact with self and others. As a way of highlighting what the going through the motions defense is, it can be helpful to contrast it with what it is not. Going through the empty motions requires sufficient wherewithal to perform the motions or the script of being a psychotherapy patient while emotionally remaining disengaged and not fully behind the task at hand. And this wherewithal, or presence of mind, therefore precludes the kind of drifting dissociation that characterizes a highly dysregulated state, often found in fragile patients. Other forms of avoidance and disconnection that do not necessarily constitute the going through the motions defense include, but are not limited to, intellectualizing, ruminating, minimizing, externalizing, projecting, diversification, vagueness, discharge, acting out, self-attack, somatization, stonewalling, stubborn unresponsiveness, and other overt expressions of defiance. Though these defenses often occur in the absence of the going through the motions defense, they can also occur concurrently along with the empty motions defense, though overt defiance seems mutually exclusive to the going through the motions defense. The defense is available to people with high ego adaptive capacity and in those more fragile with lower ego adaptive capacity. The main function of the going through the motions defense is to hide the real person, to create emotional distance, to repel emotional proximity and contact. The defense can be tactical or represent part of a major resistance. and again is seen throughout the psychoneurotic and fragile spectrums. Let me say that again. It's seen throughout the psychoneurotic and fragile spectrums. The defense is often also part of the major superego resistance, that is, resistance in the service of the masochistic need for self-punishment. You see, it leaves the person using the defense entirely alone and emotionally isolated, while also defeating the healthy therapeutic goals. The defense has developmental origins in painful childhood experiences where a child cannot be authentic and transparent with peers, teachers, and the world at large about their painful feelings and about the painful events that they're experiencing at home. And if the traumas happened at a sufficiently young age, they need to hide their true feelings even from their own selves. And so they go through the motions and play a part rather than be their authentic selves. In childhood, this is often a creative adaptation, but when carried forward into adulthood, it tends to become maladaptive. The earlier the traumas, the more pervasive is this defense of going through the motions, whereas later traumas may give rise to this defense, but it will tend to have a more tactical rather than characterological nature. A couple of ways of sussing out and working with this defense, and some general considerations while doing so. How present do you experience yourself to be right now? How connected to your feelings and to me do you experience yourself right now? Do you notice that you are going through the motions in here? Not really engaged, but acting as if you are engaged and involved? Questions like this often shine a light on this defense and help the patient see that they're going through the empty motions. As with all other defenses, once the patient is aware of it and can see the function and cost of the defense, you generally want to ask if it is their will to continue to go through the motions for the rest of the session and for the rest of their lives, or if they want to face whatever feelings this defense is obscuring instead. A resounding and unequivocal response that they want to give up the defense signals readiness for more pressure, and anything but a resounding affirmative response signals the need for clarification that indecisiveness is present and therapeutic progress is at a standstill, and that the therapeutic process will be defeated as long as the patient has not fully committed themselves to letting the defense go in favor of facing their emotions. It's common for a patient engaged in this defense who begins to see it, and when asked if they want to continue this defense or not, responds that they wish to let it go, but the response itself is compliant and still coming from the same state of mind. In these cases, it's important to simply and calmly repeat, well, this is more going through the motions. You're still doing it. It's time to wrap up this video. I hope it's been helpful and that some of this material will help you help your clients better. I owe a profound debt of gratitude towards Marvin Scorman and Dr. Habib Davanloo for paving the way so that we all can benefit and better help our patients.